Welcome to Inside Cowboys Training Camp presented by Ford. Tommy Yarrish alongside Mickey Spagnola. No practice today for the Cowboys, but we did get to hear from Brian Schottenheimer and all three coordinators. Mickey, let's go back to Saturday first, though. Joe Milton obviously was the big name to watch in his first game as a Dallas Cowboy, and with the preseason, he's going to get a majority of the reps. The plan was for him to play the entire game, but an elbow injury sidelined him from that. Nonetheless, Brian Schottenheimer after the game talked about his second-year quarterback's performance.
He's moving left and, threw it up there. Now, Flo's, he's trusting Flo in that situation to try to make a play, but I think that's one of the things that when Joe watches it, he'll be like, yeah, I probably should have taken the check down. I got moved off the launch point, and, again, that's why he needs to play.
All right, Mickey, so still some things to work on for this young quarterback. Brian Schottenheimer talked a little bit more about him today. What do you take away from what Schotty said since Saturday when it comes to his quarterback?
Well, one of the things that Joe Milton needs to do is get settled down and start faster. The other thing, it's still his recognition. He needs to see the field faster so he can get the ball out of his hands. The other thing is you can't just keep throwing fastballs. You got to be able to loft some passes, and he missed some open receivers. I think that was maybe the most concerning thing for me when you've got wide open guys and you're missing. I thought it was also kind of indicative where he is at now when Brian Schottenheimer on Monday was asked, is he your backup quarterback? And Schottenheimer said, we don't have to make that decision today. So I think this is an ongoing thing, Tommy, if he's going to prove or gain the trust of this team to be the backup quarterback.
And you and I were watching some film from Saturday before we got on air here, and there were a couple of throws where you look at the reads that he's going through, and maybe he's missing a check down or he's missing a guy a little bit shorter distance, and he's trying to take that big play. Brian Schottenheimer talked about, hey, this guy's a gamer. He's going to be aggressive and try to push the ball downfield. But sometimes with these young quarterbacks, you've got to learn that it's okay to take the check down. It's okay to take the safer option.
Right, and here's the deal. He hasn't had that many reps in NFL games. Had a handful in the preseason last year with New England, only played in one regular season game. That was at the end of the year. Really didn't have a lot of snaps during his college career until the last season. So he needs reps. They're going to give him reps, but just remember, that's one preseason down, 2 to go, and I don't know how many more reps you can squeeze in there before you have to make a decision.
That's certainly a good point. When we come back on Inside Cowboys Training Camp, we'll take a look at some of the guys who got a lot of reps and made them count. Who are some of the stock risers after the Cowboys preseason opener? Back in a minute on Inside Cowboys Training Camp.
Inside Cowboys Training Camp, presented by Ford, is brought to you by AT&T. Connecting changes everything. Sleep Number, the official sleep and wellness partner of the Dallas Cowboys. And by your North Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas. This segment is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors, official sporting goods retailer of the Dallas Cowboys.
Welcome back to Inside Cowboys Training Camp presented by Ford from Oxnard, California. Tommy Yarrish and Mickey Spagnola. All right, Mickey, I know you don't take too much from preseason games, but at the end of the day, there is some stock that needs to be bought in some players, and I know that one guy you're buying stock in is one of the wide receivers who's trying to battle for a spot on this roster.
Yeah, and I think that guy is Trayshawn Holden. Now, he's a rookie free agent, didn't get drafted, but was a pretty darn good player at Oregon. For the last couple weeks in practice, he's made a play, it seems like, every day, and a couple of them spectacular plays. And I think he showed up in the scrimmage, caught a couple passes, and then one of the things he's going to have to prove is how well can he play special teams if he makes the roster. I think he's on the practice squad for sure, but I think he's pushing some guys for maybe that 5th or 6th spot on the 53-man roster at wide receiver.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And there's familiarity for Trayshawn Holden and Junior Adams, his collegiate wide receivers coach. They both came to Dallas together as Adams takes over as wide receivers coach in Dallas. I'll go to the defensive side of the ball, Mickey. I think Israel McQuamu's stock rose a good bit because of that interception. Now, Brian Schottenheimer did say after the game that, hey, those big plays help you, but overall, we're going to look at a body of work overall. So Israel McQuamu, still work to do because we've seen him get beat a couple of times out here in practice, but you saw that length being able to be used to his advantage on that big play. Now, I want to talk about the offensive line a little bit here, Mickey, before we go to our last segment. A big storyline, I thought, from the preseason opener was Tyler Booker, the first-round pick at guard, did not play. And really, the whole starting offensive line, except for Nate Thomas, who looks to be starting at left tackle with Tyler Guyton battling an injury right now, didn't play. What do you make of Nate Thomas's performance in the 10 to 16 or so snaps that he got in the opener?
Yeah, I think he's been somewhat impressive, but it shows that he needs more reps. And as a matter of fact, I think the whole offensive line needs reps. At some point, I think you got to get them out there in a preseason game. I know you're trying to protect these guys from injury. You don't want to lose a starter in a non-consequential game, but I think, as they like to say, 5 has to be 1. So for that to happen, you need those guys on the field playing.
Yeah, and I think I'm with you. I think Tyler Booker especially may have been the only first-round pick that wasn't injured to not play. And I think these are important reps for him. Let him get out there and go against another team. He did in the joint practice earlier on Tuesday, but you look at those reps and you say, man, these are things that a young guy really needs. So I'm with you on that. Now let's go ahead and enter our last segment. We'll go to the other side of the line of scrimmage and play some D-line dominoes. Who needs to make a move here in the last 2 weeks of the preseason to earn a spot on this roster up front? Coming up next on Inside Cowboys Training Camp.
This segment was brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors, official sporting goods retailer of the Dallas Cowboys.
Welcome back, third and final segment of Inside Cowboys Training Camp from Oxnard. Tommy Yarrish alongside Mickey Spagnola. Let's talk about this defensive line room, Mickey. In terms of rounding it out, you know Oso Dickey-Zoo is going to make this roster. You know Solomon Thomas is going to make this roster. Mozzie Smith, in all likelihood, is going to make this roster. But you've got to fill some more spots at defensive tackle. We're talking defensive tackle specifically. What did you see in that first preseason game in terms of guys that, hey, maybe they could be that 4th or 5th defensive tackle that this team ends up taking come late August?
Yeah, and I don't know if it was just in the preseason game, but just watching practice for these last 3 weeks, they need some big bodies in there. And one big body that you would like to see make an impact is Perion Winfield. He's got some experience. He played this spring in the UFL. They need a big body like that to step up. Now, they're talking about their defensive tackles. They want them to be on the move, rushing forward. Well, big guys sometimes aren't used to doing that, but the Cowboys do need some bodies like his on that defensive front to be able to play the run.
It's the attack front is what Matt Eberflus called it, getting vertical and getting up the field. And Winfrey is a massive dude, very muscular, so he's got the frame that you want to use to get upfield. And he's made some plays here in practice too, especially against the run. Now, I'm with you, Mickey. You need guys to get up the field, but I also want some guys who just take up space, can eat up a double team, and let your linebackers go to work. I think Jay Toia can be that. He was double-teamed on over 50% of his snaps in that preseason opener. Now the next step for the Cowboys defense is getting those linebackers to fill the gaps, right? Getting them to shoot the gaps to be able to stop the run and get to the quarterback. So it'll be an interesting equation to see Matt Eberflus, who is a linebacker guru. He was the linebackers coach here before he became the defensive coordinator earlier in his career. Can he develop these linebackers to fill those gaps correctly? I don't think they did a great job of that on Saturday, but when you have a guy like Toia who can take those double teams and you've got linebackers behind him who can make plays, it'll be something important to watch.
And he sure can take up space, and he's pretty versatile as a big guy, so I'd love to see him be able to take that step up.
All right, that'll do it for us here at Inside Cowboys Training Camp. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow here from Oxnard. For Mickey Spagnola, I'm Tommy Yarrish. We'll see you next time.
Inside Cowboys Training Camp, presented by Ford, was brought to you by AT&T. Connecting changes everything. Sleep Number, the official sleep and wellness partner of the Dallas Cowboys. And by your North Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas.